Hello, thanks for stopping by. If you enjoy the dark stories of the Warhammer 40,000 universe, please support the channel with a like and a subscription. It really helps. Now, get comfortable and happy listening. If you can hear this, then I'm already dead. Don't be too quick to rejoice, brother in the Imperium. My body may have been burned in the cleansing flame. My note is probably lying on the Inquisitor's desk, next to the seal of purity. But words are worse than contagion. They cling to the mind like spores on raw steel. My name was... No, let's put it differently. My name is as it appears in the Astra Militarum registers. Sergeant Karen's Law, 117th Frontier Regiment. If this entry has reached you, then my name has already been crossed out. My face was burned from the archives. All that remains is the case number and the verdict. Heresy. Contact with Xenos. Distortion of the doctrine of the Imperium of man. You know how it sounds on paper, but you don't know what it sounds like inside your skull when you're still alive. Our world was called Geliostratum, an outpost world like many on the outskirts. A dusty ball in a cold vacuum with one advantage: suitable orbits for orbital batteries. The Imperium did not keep us for our sake. We were just a node in a web of fire, a point in the chain of defense, a number in the calculations of the Magi. We were told that we were a shield. In reality, we were expendable material, a wall of flesh in front of something that was not supposed to pass. When the Tau came, I had already served in 2 campaigns. I saw the orcs. They came like a green disease, screaming and rushing forward. I have seen chaos cultists, whispering to the darkness and laughing as they were torn apart by bolt shells. I was ready for all this, but I wasn't ready for smiles. Their signal first appeared as interference. The ether crackled, the communications equipment sparked, the tech priests began to run around, chattering their prayers. And then the voice. Clear, pure, too even to be human. Citizens of the Imperium, we greet you. We did not come as conquerors. We have come to offer you a place in a world greater than yours. At first we laughed. Our propagandist, an old bastard with a voice like a rusty bayonet, turned on the loudspeakers and cut off the airwaves. By decree of Holy Terra, do not heed any voices of Xenos. Their words are poison, their promises are lies, their smiles are a mask on a fanged mouth. People in the barracks shouted, "In the name of the Emperor," and hit the walls with rifle butts. But when you shout too loudly, you stop listening. And I always listened. That's the job. I was more than just a sergeant. I was also a regimental agitator. I knew the words that make people go and die. I've seen the look in your eyes when you get the ecclesiarchy quote right. And so I, a professional liar for the glory of the Emperor, listened to others lie. The Tau did not approach like the orcs, not with a shout, not with the roar of engines. Their ships remained invisible until one of them blocked out the sun. We looked up, squinting, and saw only a glowing outline at the edges. Alien light, cutting off our own. The first to fall was the Solomon Primus station. Its orbital batteries were supposed to be a wall for us. They became fireworks. Beautiful, useless, crumbling in a vacuum. We were shown the recording from the sensors. First, a powerful salvo at the Tau ship. Plasma strikes, flashes of energy tear through the blackness. The Tau ship is lost in the glow. We shout in the viewing room. People clap, some cry with joy. And then the flashes go out. The Tau ship is still there. Remnants of energy dance across his shields like lightning across glass. And he responds with one single shot. The Solomon Primus station is turning into a cloud of hot debris. No screaming, no dramatic pause. The dot in the sky simply disappears. The tech priests were stunned. The regimental chaplain said it was a test of faith. The commissioner simply took out his pistol and shot one of those who applauded too loudly. Less emotion, more honor. This is how our war began. That same night, their voice returned to the airwaves. Citizens of Geliostratum, you have seen how obsolete your means of war have become. Your masters on distant Terra sent you to die for scrap metal. They don't care whether you are alive or dead. But not for us. We offer you a choice. Choice. A funny word for an Imperium world, isn't it? We sat in the semi-dark barracks, whispers floating between the bunks. Officially, we haven't heard this broadcast. Unofficially, Everyone was discussing it. A recruit, barely over 16, approached me. Eyes are like two windows into an empty room. "Sergeant," his voice trembled. "But what if they really are better?" I looked at him, at the thin back of his head, at his hands not yet accustomed to the weight of the laser gun. I knew what I had to say. There is no peace among the stars except that which the Emperor gives. But instead I asked, "Have you ever seen the Emperor?" He was taken aback. "No, sir, of course not." "Have you seen Tau?" "Also, no, sir." "Then how do you know who is better?" He fell silent, opening and closing his mouth like a fish. I saw something dangerous being born in him. A thought. According to the regulations, I was supposed to call the commissar, but if I had done everything by the book, I would not have left this entry. 3 days later, we were lined up on the parade ground. The sky was scorched by traces, and destroyed air defense positions were smoking on the horizon. Commissioner Darwin walked in front of the line, his overcoat trailing behind him like the shadow of an execution. "Soldiers of the Imperium," his voice cut through the air, "you face Xenos. Their words are sweet as poison. Their promises are a trap. From today, anyone caught listening to enemy broadcasts is sentenced to immediate execution." He stopped right in front of me. His eyes are cold, empty, like those of the statues of saints. "Sergeant Lowe," he said, "you are the regiment's agitator. Your task is to drown out other people's voices with ours. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir, Commissioner." "Okay." He leaned towards me slightly. "Then let's start with you." He gave me a small recording pad marked with the initials of the Inquisition. "You will keep psychological reports, the mood in the unit, potential hotbeds of heresy, and remember, you're not writing this for yourself. You're writing this for us." I was appointed as the eyes and ears of power. They made me what I had long been, but now, officially. And I thought, if I am already registering the thoughts of others, who will register mine? This post is the answer to that question. 5. The First Clash. They landed on the eastern plateau where our agricultural zones once were. Now there stood smooth, angular structures that did not resemble any cathedral or bunker. They seemed neat. Our regiment was thrown into a counterattack. I remember how the transport shook, how the overheated wiring smelled, how the chaplain prayed, shouting over the roar of the engines. "The Emperor is the shield! The Emperor is the sword! The Emperor is the light in the darkness!" I repeated the words, but they slipped through my fingers like water. When the landing ramps fell, the world became a firing line. The Tau did not scream. They did not carry leather banners. They did not decorate themselves with skulls. They just shot. Clean, cold lines of pulsed fire cut through the air. People around me were simply turned off. No shouting, no theater. Yesterday's man is today an empty shell on Earth. I saw their drones, faceless, smooth discs with weapons. I saw their infantry in smooth armor, their helmets without emotion screens. They don't care who they kill. They didn't hate us. And that only made it more scary. We retreated. Officially, it was an organized withdrawal to the second line of defense. In reality, there is flight, chaos, and the screams of those whose legs were cut off by plasma. That's how I saw them for the first time. Not by their voices on the air, but with my eyes. 2 days later, we got lucky, if you can call it that. The reconnaissance group, miraculously not burned under their targeted fire, dragged in the prisoner. The young Tau, judging by his height and equipment, is an ordinary warrior of the fire caste. His helmet was broken, and bluish blood was flowing from under his armor. He was thrown into a makeshift cell in the basement of the barracks. We, the agitators, were called to work. "Sergeant Lowe," the commissioner said to me, "you have a way of making people believe. Try applying this to him. When he speaks, these will speak too." He waved his hand towards the line of soldiers. "And we will learn what we need." I went down to the basement. It smelled of iron and fear. Tau sat leaning against the wall. One of his eyes was filled with blood. The other one, cold and attentive, was watching me. I spoke through a servo translator. Devices were trusted more than languages. "Do you understand me?" I asked. A short pause. The hum of the mechanism. Monotonous translation voice. "Understand." The voice, rough, but I get the meaning. "You are a Tau warrior," I said. "You have come to our world to kill. Do you know what awaits you?" He moved his head slightly. "Death. This is a rational outcome. You will not accept our offer. You are ruled by dogma, not by reason." I chuckled. "Reason? You call what you do reason? You destroyed our orbital station with one shot." The translator buzzed again. "We struck a military target. Your station was an instrument of oppression. You build temples around guns. You pray to metal. We free you from this." I expected hatred. I expected him to call us barbarians, savages, but his voice, through the hoarse translation, was almost pitiful. "Are you freeing me?" I repeated. "From life?" He fell silent, then replied, "From illusions." I came to see him several more times, officially, interrogations. Unofficially, I myself didn't understand what it was. We sat opposite each other, separated by an energy grid. Dim lamps flickered above us, and somewhere above, the wounded were screaming. "Why do you always talk about your good for everyone?" I asked once. "For whom is this everything?" The translator responded quickly, as if the words had been prepared. "For all intelligent races, we believe that unity is possible. Your empire is a prison. Ours is home." "The house into which we are being led at gunpoint," I objected. He bowed his head. "You are resisting, so an incentive is needed. The mind must understand that the old does not work." "Old?" I felt anger flare within me. "Old? Is it the Emperor? The billions who died in his name? You dare talk about the past when your empire is just a will-o'-the-wisp on the edge of the galaxy." Tao was silent for a long time. When the translator spoke, his voice was quieter. "We do not deny the sacrifices you made. But look around. This world is dying. Your faith is like an old wound that won't heal. We offer a cure. It's bitter, but it works." "A cure that starts with a bombardment from orbit? Sometimes gangrene can only be stopped by amputation." I caught myself listening. I don't argue. I don't prepare an agitational response. I just listen. It was more dangerous than any weapon they had. When the front began to collapse, when the Tau broke through the second line, the command took out something that is usually only whispered about: extreme measure. We were gathered in the headquarters bunker. The air was heavy, as before a thunderstorm. The Magus entered in a circle of servitors, followed by an inquisitor in a gray robe. The face is as if carved from stone. The eyes are black wells. "Soldiers," he said, "the Imperium cannot allow this world to fall into the hands of the Xenos. On Geliostratum there are not only people, but also weapons that must not fall into the hands of the enemy. So," he paused, as if enjoying it, "we have a protocol." A diagram of the planet flashed on the hologram. Beneath the layers of rock, something stood out, a massive structure encircling the core. "This is Exterminatus locale," the Magus said in a metallic voice. "A system of core-based charges designed for the eventual loss of the planet. Its activation will make the world uninhabitable, fully." A whisper rolled through the hall. I felt my throat go dry. The Inquisitor continued. "Usually such decisions come from Terra or Mars, but the connection is unstable. Time is short. The front will collapse in a day, 2 at the most. So the solution is here, now." Commissioner Darwin stepped forward, chest outstretched. "In the name of the Emperor, we are ready." The Inquisitor looked at us as if he were assessing the weight of meat. "Activating the system requires access to the central node in the depths of the planet. There is only one way there: the old mine tunnels under the eastern plateau. They are now in Tau-controlled territory. We need a group that will go in there, activate the protocol, and—" He smiled slightly. "Ensure a clean retreat." I understood what he didn't say. "None of those who go will return." "Volunteers?" he asked. The word sounded like a mockery. There are no true volunteers in the Imperium. There are those who realize that they had no choice anyway. The commissioner looked straight at me. Sergeant Lowe, you know people. You know how to speak. You will go, and take with you those who trust you. I nodded. In the name of the Emperor. In the name of the Empire. In the name of everything I told others, and what I myself stopped believing in. That night I went down to the basement again. Tao sat in the same position, leaning against the wall. His breathing became heavier. The blood under his armor dried. "We're going underground," I said, "to activate a device that will kill everyone on this planet. Both us and you." The translator was silent for a moment, as if he did not believe that this needed to be retold. "You will destroy your own world? For what purpose?" "So that you don't get it." He was silent for a long time. I heard water dripping somewhere deep in the basement, as the guns thundered above our heads. Finally, the translator spoke. "This is madness." "It's the Imperium," I replied. I looked at the grill, at the locks, at the control panel. "Do you know the tunnels under the Eastern Plateau?" He looked up. "Yes." "Do you know how to bypass your posts?" Pause. "I can show you the way. But why? Will I help you kill mine?" "And yours too?" I smiled crookedly. "But you spoke about the good for all." "Here it is, the common good. No one will get anything for anyone." Something flashed in his eyes that I didn't expect. Horror. "This is not a good thing. This is a denial. It's emptiness." "Welcome to our faith," I said. I turned off the grill. The metal hissed, and the light went out for a second. "Get up, Xenos. You will be our guide." I dragged him out to the people under cover of night. We walked through corridors where the walls were covered in candle smoke and prayer signs, as if that could protect us from what was approaching. I simply told my group, "We will have a guide. Don't ask questions. If he betrays, I will kill him first." They nodded. They believed me. I led them to death, and they walked. There were 10 people with us, 2 veterans who have seen more wars than they wanted to, a couple of recruits still smelling of trembling fear, a sniper with hands that never miss, a silent sapper who only spoke to explosives, and Tao, our Xenos guide. One of the recruits, the one with the empty eyes, whispered to me, "Sergeant, do we really trust him?" I looked at him. "No, but it's better than trusting to fate." The entrance to the old mines was hit by bombs and filled with debris. We made our way through cracks, through the smell of dampness and rot. The air became heavier with every step. Our lanterns snatched rails, rusty platforms, and forgotten mechanisms from the darkness. Sometimes old workers' cults could be found on the walls, scratched symbols, the faces of saints without eyes. Tao walked ahead, his steps surprisingly quiet. His armor creaked, but he stood straight, as if he were still on parade. "Here," he said through the translator, pointing to a branch of the tunnel. "This path leads under your former lines of defense. Our sensors don't show it. Old rocks screen signals." "Sometimes old things are useful," the veteran muttered. We walked for hours. Sometimes there was a rumble from above. It was Tao and ours still fighting for something that would soon cease to matter. I was thinking about what would happen when we got to the node, about how I pressed the button, about how the Earth's crust will split, how fire will burst out. Our names will not even be included in the lists of the fallen. We will disappear along with the world. "In the name of the Emperor," the voice inside whispered. "In the name of the Emperor," another voice repeated, but with mockery. 12. Choice, which is not. We reached the central hub closer to morning, although in the dungeon there was neither day nor night. A huge hall carved into the rock, with columns of amplifiers reaching down to the core of the planet. In the middle is a control panel, surrounded by ancient machines that only the Magi and their machine gods understood. Magos was not with us. We had a key, an activation code, hidden in the servitor's skull. The sapper carefully connected the interface, and the ancient machine began to whisper numbers and flash runic displays. "All that's left is to enter the confirmation," the sapper said dryly. "The last code. After this," He shrugged. There will be nothing left. I looked at the people. They looked at me. Sergeant, the veteran asked, will you give the order? Tao stood a little to the side, looking at the pulsating columns. If you do this, he said through a translator, you will destroy not only yourself. On the surface, there are peaceful neighborhoods that have not yet been evacuated. Your children, your elders. They can't escape, I replied, but at least they won't become your subjects. He stepped closer. Have you seen what we do to those who join us? We give them education, medicine. You kill your own in the name of an idol on a throne that does not speak to you. At least we talk. I felt a tight knot tightening inside me. You speak in beautiful words, I said, but I saw your drones cut down a column of refugees because there might have been a military target among them. He lowered his head. Mistakes happen, but we recognize them, and you call them sacrifice in the name of. The sniper held his rifle at the ready. The recruits shifted from foot to foot. The veteran remained silent, gritting his teeth. Sergeant, he said, you can decide later who is better, but now we have an order. Order. The word from which the Imperium is built, and people break down. I approached the control panel. The display flashed with a query. Confirm Exterminatus? YN. Someone up there, in the past, thought that one letter was enough to kill the world. I raised my hand, and I heard a voice. Not Tao, not people, mine. You always knew you were a good liar. You told others that the Emperor was light, but for yourself, you reserved darkness. I froze. The hand hung over the panel like a doomed death waiting to happen. I remembered the faces of those to whom I told of the glory of the Imperium. A guy with empty eyes, a woman who left her child in the labor block to go to the front, an old man who thought that they would at least take him to the rear, but his body remained cold on the training ground. I told them that their sacrifice was important, that the Emperor sees everything, that their names will be written into the chronicles. I knew that most of them would die nameless. I knew that no one would leaf through these chronicles. I knew that the Emperor, if he could hear anything at all, had drowned in 1,000 voices 10,000 years ago. My little heresies were half-truths, shadows of truth that I looked away from. Now I had one big heresy in front of me. I could have disobeyed. Tao looked at me. His face, alien, incomprehensible, was sincere, or so I wanted to think. You don't have to do this, he said. Your Emperor is far away. I'm nearby. I was your enemy, but now I tell you, there is another way. We can stop the war here. Send a signal up. Negotiation. World. I laughed, dryly, without joy. World? Between the Imperium and the Xenos? Do you believe this? I believe that every decision starts with one voice that refuses to die for someone else's idea. The veteran stepped forward. Sergeant. His voice was steely with command. The order is clear. Our death is nothing if we stop them. Don't listen to him. I stood between two voices. Xenos spoke of peace. The man spoke of duty. And inside me a third one whispered, the quietest and the loudest. You just don't want to admit that all this is empty. That there is no good for all, no great plan. There is only a game of dice on the table of gods who are long gone. I lowered my hand to the panel. 14. Code. The fingers found the keys themselves. Y is the simplest solution, the shortest road. But I pressed another one. Message. There was a hidden feature on the panel that we were told about in passing. Transmit final data to command before activation. I typed, Protocol Exterminatus is ready for activation. Enemy, Tau. Situation, critical. A reconsideration is recommended. Possibility, local agreement. Sergeant Karen's low. The recruit gasped. Sergeant, what are you doing? The veteran cursed. Are you crazy? They will see this as a betrayal. I chuckled. They will see it anyway. The signal has gone away. Somewhere in the depths of the machine spirit, something clicked, and new runes lit up. The answer came quickly. Too fast for anyone up there to actually read my words. Accept. Order unchanged. Activation is mandatory. In the name of the Emperor. Certainly, the Imperium does not speak, he states. The betrayal that never happened. I looked at the people, on Tau, to the remote control. The choice has been made, I said. The sapper nodded. So, we activate it? Tau stepped forward. If you do this, you will become worse than all of us. Worse than the Imperium, worse than chaos, because you saw both paths and still chose emptiness. I looked him straight in the eyes. And if I don't do it, what will happen? We will take this world. We will restore order. Your children will study, not die on the front lines. Your old people will live to see their end and not rot in the trenches. Your emperor will remain in your temples as a legend, not as a chain. And our machine gods, our shrines, our faith, will you organize them too? We will allow you to pray as long as your prayers do not hinder progress. We will eventually convince you that you don't need to pray. Reason will prevail, not right away, but he will win. Reason will prevail. Words in which there was no room for a miracle. Words that had no place for the emperor. I smiled. You know, I said quietly, I believe you're sincere. I believe that your intentions appear good. But I've seen what happens when someone believes they know what's best for everyone. I raised the las pistol. He didn't point it at Tau. On the panel, one shot, sparks, smoke. The runes faded and flashed red. The sapper yelled, "What have you done? The system is damaged. Now it can't be activated or disabled properly. She will start to stall and break her chains. It may work partially. It might blow us up here. Maybe, who the hell knows what it might be?" I lowered the weapon. Exactly. 16. The Cracked World. We didn't die right away. That would be a mercy. Something groaned deep within the planet. The ground shook under my feet. Dust fell from the walls. "We're initiating slow death," the sapper croaked. "The reaction will travel through the layers of rock. There will be earthquakes. The magma will rise. But not right away. Maybe in a few hours. Maybe in a few days." Tau looked at me as if he was seeing me for the first time. "You have done worse than Exterminatus," he said. "You have turned death into agony, for everyone." I nodded. Welcome to the human way of dying. We got to the surface through another tunnel. The sky was torn apart by cracks of fire as if the atmosphere itself was beginning to burn. The city on the horizon trembled like a mirage. There were still people there. There were still Tau there. And no one knew that cracks were already running under their feet. The connection was full of screams. The command shouted orders that no one could carry out. The Tau transmitted their codes. Everyone spoke at the same time. And somewhere between all these voices and the noise of interference was my voice, recorded on this block. You, who are listening to this now, are probably an inquisitor, or one of his people, or some archival clerk who was tasked with classifying the LO file. You were looking for heresy here. You want to understand when I fell, when I stopped being a loyal son of the Imperium and became one who needed to be erased. I'll tell you honestly, I did not fall. I was already lying on the bottom. I always knew that the Imperium is not a light, but a fire. I always understood that we are not a shield, but fuel. I was just smart enough not to say it out loud. The Tau showed me another fire, more even, colder. The fire of the mind that says, lay down your arms, surrender to statistics. Become a cog in another machine, less rusty than the previous one. You call this heresy. And you know, you're not that wrong. I stood between two flames, fanaticism and rationality, and chose to break the fuse. I made it so that both ours and theirs would die. My world was split in two. My brothers and sisters will be buried alive in their homes. Their drones will drown in lava. And your reports will be written. The planet is lost. The enemy has lost its strategic assets. Bless the Emperor. You will ask yourself, why did he do this? Out of hatred for the Imperium? Out of secret love for Tau? No. I did it because I saw a truth that you may also know but are afraid to say. There is no right in this war. There are only those who come up with an excuse faster. Imperium says, "In the name of the Emperor." Tau say, "For the good of all." And the ground beneath our feet says, "I don't care." Now, as I speak, the world beneath me trembles. Somewhere buildings are collapsing. Somewhere the Tau are evacuating their own in a hurry, not realizing that there is nowhere to retreat. Somewhere, your people think they can hold the line for another day. You are all wrong. I am sitting in the ruins of the barracks where I once began this entry as a psychological report. Now this is my confession, my verdict, and my defense. You can call me a heretic. You can erase my name. You can order this recording to be destroyed so that no one hears these words. But if you've listened this far, so something in you is cracked too. You might say it's the voice of the warp whispering through me. You might say that this is the work of chaos, trying to sow doubt. It will be safer this way. You might say that I have fallen under the influence of the Xenos, under his soft heresy. It will be easier this way. But the truth is, I'm just human. A man who saw himself holding an Imperial pistol in one hand and a Tau promise in the other. And he chose to break both. So here's my final act of faith, if you like. I believe that no emperor, no ethereal, no god can save us from our own ability to destroy everything we touch. And yet, if somewhere out there in the cold infinity the Emperor really hears, if his will is something more than a dead light over Terra, let him be a witness. Sergeant Karen's Law, 117th Frontier Regiment, declared a heretic. The initiator of the destruction of the world Geliostratum refuses to ask for forgiveness. I'm not asking for salvation. I only ask that someone write down, we were not monsters. We were people. End of recording. Thank you for being with me until the last minute of this story. If you enjoyed the video, please support it with a like and a subscription. It helps the channel survive, just as the Imperium soldiers survive on the front lines. See you soon, and may the Emperor watch over you.